Disrupting Japan, Episode 81. Disrupting Japan is sponsored by Justa. Now, I've known the team at Justa for years, and I've been recommending them long before they became a sponsor. Justa is really the only recruiting site that gets bilingual startups. Whether you're looking for American engineers or Japanese sales staff or the other way around, Justa can help you out. Unlike recruiting companies, they are priced to be very startup-friendly, and unlike job boards, they're an active part of the startup community here, and they're trusted by some of the best talent Japan has to offer. So drop by justa.io and see what they're about. Welcome to Disrupting Japan, straight talk from Japan's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for joining me. You know, the term artificial intelligence is thrown around far too loosely these days. Every startup using decision trees, Bayesian algorithms, or the simplest machine learning techniques label themselves as world leaders in AI. Now, there's no question that projects like Google's driverless cars and IBM's Watson have pushed the limits of what is possible and have introduced astounding innovations in AI over the past few years. But sometimes it's surprising to take a look at the kinds of problems that are extremely difficult for AI. It turns out that folding laundry is one of those problems. Today we sit down with Shin Sakane, CEO of 7 Dreamers and inventor of the Laundroid, the first commercially available, fully automatic laundry folding robot. We talk a lot about AI in general, and the importance and the risk of attacking the really hard problems, and what he and his firm had to go through to make Laundroid a reality. It's also worth noting that 7 Dreamers is not your typical venture-backed startup, and Shin and I talk a lot about the role that mid-sized companies have to play in kickstarting the Japanese economy and returning Japan to the global leader in innovation she was in the 60s and 70s. But you know, Shin tells that story much better than I can. So let's hear from our sponsor and get right to the interview. Some of Japan's largest companies are starting open innovation programs and actively reaching out to global startups. They're new at this, and that's where Crew, with 2 W's, comes in. Crew runs corporate startup accelerators for companies like Toyota and Panasonic and dozens more, and these programs are one of the best ways to jumpstart your business in Japan. Many are open to global startups, and they're completely free. Now, I've known and worked with the Crew team, and they're probably doing more than anyone to bridge the gap between corporate Japan and global startups. So drop by Crew with 2 W's .me/4-startups and get started. So I'm sitting here with Shin Sakane of 7 Dreamers, and we've been bumping into each other for a long time now. So thanks for finally making time and sitting down with me.
Thank you very much for coming.
We're here to talk a lot about the Laundroid. Now, it's a robot that folds clothes, which I guess is a simple way of explaining it, but why don't you tell us a bit more about what it is?
Okay. We've been working on this, project for the last 12 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah, we started back in 2005. This robot really folds, daily life clothes and separate by categories or by family members.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it can put all the shirts in one pile, or it can put all of Dad's clothes in one pile and Mom's in another.
Actually, the key feature of Laundroid is after you dry your clothings, you just put up to, say, around 30 clothes into insert box at the bottom. Then artificial intelligence and robotics with vision analysis technology. Robot arms pick one, clothings by one, and then it folds and put in the pickup box. If you choose separate by clothing category mode, then Laundroid puts towels in the towel tray and t-shirt in the t-shirt tray.
Okay, and since this is a audio podcast, I guess we have to The Laundroid it's a large machine. It's about, 2 meters tall?
Yeah.
And about 75 centimeters squared?
Right now it's like a little thinner, about 60 centimeter.
Deep?
Yes. And then 87 centimeter wide.
Okay.
So it's a little thinner and wider.
And it is literally a black box.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of HAL in a way.
Yeah.
Well, it's this big black monolith.
Right.
With
Exactly.
a bright circle on the front of it.
Right.
So you simply put up to 30 articles of wet clothes in the bottom.
Right.
And then it sorts it onto shelves in the middle.
Right. Exactly.
Excellent.
And then if you want to separate by family members mode, in order to use this separation mode, you have to do very simple one-time registration process for each family member. If I purchase Landroid, the first day what I do is I put everything into the box, just myself, my clothes, and then with your smartphone, register as a father, father's clothes. And then, robot arms picks up one, clothes by one, and then it takes so many pictures for each item.
So it learns by example.
Yeah, exactly. And it does automatically kind of remembers the features of each clothing.
The field of AI it's fascinating from the inside, but it's very interesting from the outside in that, so you guys have been working on this for 12 years to get to the point where you're ready for production.
Right.
Why is this a hard problem? Why does AI have trouble folding clothes?
It was very hard, but not that hard to develop the robot to just fold, for example, T-shirt and towels, pants. It took us 3 years to achieve that. Okay. But the condition is we have to place, say, T-shirt or pants at a certain place first. Then robot automatically folds.
Okay.
That wasn't that hard. That was hard, but that's not that hard. The hardest part was just dump, random clothings in the box, and then robot arm pick up one shirt or one clothing, and then recognizes if this is T-shirt or pants or towels, and then recognizes if it's upside down or flipped or something like that, and then place at certain location in order to start folding. That's the hardest part.
Okay. It's not the folding that's difficult, it's the getting ready for the folding.
Right. It's so easy for human beings, but it's so hard for robots and artificial intelligence.
So, for example, there's a group in Berkeley who's built a robot that all it does is fold towels.
Yes.
Towels have to be the simplest thing possible to fold. They're all the same shape. There's no real upside down to them. And it takes about 1.5 minutes per towel.
Right.
It does seem like folding clothes is one of those difficult problems.
Well, yeah, it is difficult. But there are already 3 organizations who tried it, who achieved doing this, rather than 7 Dreamers. One is, as you mentioned, Berkeley. Also, like Berkeley, one of the Berkeley group achieved to also fold T-shirt just by using 2 industrial robot arms. But even if when they do it, they have to place T-shirt in certain place first. Then they start folding, right? So they achieved that, and you can see that on YouTube. And we think it's worthless because...
Right. By the time you take the time it takes to position the towel...
Right. I might as well just fold it after,
With
additional 5 seconds. So there's another organization or company called Foldimate, which is a US-based venture startup company, I think based in Silicon Valley. Their machine, or from the CG picture, I don't know if it's real or not, but also customer has to place T-shirt or towel at certain place.
I've seen it when you have to clip it in.
Yes,
to the machine,
exactly.
Right?
That's what it is. Yes. So that's another thing that we had that technology already back in 2008, and we didn't commercialize because we thought no one is going to buy it because it's already hard to do it. It's too much trouble, hassle doing it. The third organization is University of Tokyo. They are the one who tried to do something similar to what we've done, but they could not also pick up the clothing and place it from the random. So they gave up.
So that's the hard part.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
And so Laundroid can fold anything, pants and shirts and socks and everything?
Yeah, pretty much all the regular clothes, including t-shirt and long sleeve shirt and pants, shorts and towels. And there are three things that Landroid cannot do. One is Landroid cannot flip clothes, meaning that the t-shirt has to be...
if it's inside out?
Right, exactly.
Right, okay, so that's fair.
Right, the mother in each home has to educate husband and kids to,
turn them right side out.
Right, then just dump into the box, right?
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and then second thing is Landroid doesn't do buttons. Polo shirt is okay. Polo shirt, you don't need to do buttons, and then still Landroid can fold okay.
Right.
But, shirt like that, you have to put like maybe at least 3 buttons for Landroid to fold, nicely.
Yeah, and I guess you really need very dexterous fingers for that.
That's very, very difficult task. And then third thing is something that Landroid cannot do at the moment, but he will do it within a year with the software update, is socks pairings.
Socks.
Yeah. So this is like kind of funny, but it's so hard,
I've got to admit, it does seem strange that, AI can safely drive cars all over San Francisco and Tokyo, but they can't fold socks.
Exactly. So it could, but makes mistakes at high rate. For example, very dark navy blue socks with, compared with the black socks, sometimes, pairs it. It makes a mistake. Or the same socks, but one is shrunk, smaller than the other. It happens, right? And it makes Landroid recognizes this as a different pair. Or the same black color but different textures. Landroid still makes mistakes.
Okay.
And this is like AI, machine learning. So with a software update, maybe within a year, Landroid will be able to do it.
Can you talk about the technology you use? I know up until now, you guys have been very secretive about what's going on inside this black box. Right. Can you talk about that yet, or is that still?
I cannot talk about the key technologies there, but I can talk about briefly what's going on. This technology has achieved by combining 3 different technology areas. One is robotics, the other one is artificial intelligence, the third one is vision analysis. So combining these 3 technologies, we made it happen. Basically, as I mentioned, that the recognizing each type of clothings or the direction of what's going on that's the hardest part. So initially, robot arms pick up one clothes, and then vision analysis see with the camera, and AI recognizes if t-shirt or what kind of type of clothes that is. And if AI cannot recognize, then robot arms changes to position, and then try again. So we repeat this many times, and eventually find, okay, this is t-shirt, for example. And then from that, still vision analysis takes, where is the edge of this shirt? Where is the center of this neck circle, for example? What's the size of it? Then it folds, one by one, and then just put into the pickup tray.
How quickly does it work?
This is the only thing that Android doesn't do well. It takes a long time to fold, 5 to 12 minutes per item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is quite long. It's like ridiculously long. But we thought this would be the problem for the commercializing, marketing purposes. But we did intensive kind of interviews, depth interviews with many, many different potential customers. And most of them said the time is not an issue. Of course, they like to be, quicker, but...
So the idea is just that since it's running automatically by itself, they can just go about their business.
Right.
Okay. That
so
makes
5
sense.
to 12 minutes means like for 30 items, it takes 2.5 hours to say 5 or 6 hours total. So this means that they can just dump all the dried clothes into Landroid in the morning. So in the afternoon, it's done, and they're already separated. Or if they can dump in before they go to bed, then in the morning it's done. So we call like night Landroid or morning Landroid. So
right.
they said if it's completely automatic, it doesn't really matter.
I guess as time goes on and the technology improves, that's only going to get faster and faster.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Landroid only works at the Wi-Fi connected environment, just like your smartphone. It does software update, regularly, and of course it gets faster, get better and better.
Excellent. Let me ask you about you.
Okay.
For a little bit.
All right.
Because you are not the typical startup CEO we usually have, and Seven Dreamers is definitely not the typical startup company we have on this show.
Right. So after I got PhD in the US, I came back to Japan in January 2000. And then I had 30-year plan to grow business. And then first 15 years, my aim is to learn and also learn in the B2B technology-oriented business.
Was that business a family business?
Or So I had different choices. Of course, I was able to work for example, like Sony or Panasonic or Toyota, wherever that is. But also, luckily, my father also started his own company back in 1983, and he was very successful. And he wanted me to join the company, but I was always denying, I don't want it. But after I got PhD and I came back to Japan, I realized that probably the place where I can learn the most is at my father's company. So I apologized and can I join your company? And he said, okay, sure. And then I started my business career at his company. He said, first 5 years, just follow me. You just carry my bag and you learn. And I said, no way. That's something that I really don't want to do. So I asked him to let me do new business development. So he created a new group and I became head of the group, manager there. And then I kind of started new business. And luckily, successfully, I made a new good products for one of the medical device companies in Japan. And that business grew so fast.
Well, that's true. You have, right now you're getting all the attention for Landroid, but you also have two other very successful lines of products that have absolutely nothing to do with AI or with laundry.
Right. Yeah, so this the medical device called Nascent is for the snoring and sleep apnea. My actually first new business is actually in the medical healthcare market. That B2B business turned out really successful. And after 3 years, so in 2003, my father said, whoa, maybe you can run the company. And he left the company.
Oh.
And I became CEO of that company. And okay. And then I ran that company for 8 years as a CEO. And at that time, I grew the company. I doubled in revenue, and then that was pretty good. But that was all based on my father's, base foundation or base technologies. And then year 2010, we already had the base technology for Landroid and base technology for medical device Nascent. So I asked my father that my vision after 2015 is we really want to challenge B2C business, consumer business. And in order to do that, bank loan is not enough. So I need to probably raise funds from venture capitals or other investors. And if we do that, we need to go for IPO at some point. Mm-hmm. And my father at that time, he was a chairman, and he said clearly, oh, okay, that's not acceptable.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So, okay, and the reason was my grandfather, my father's father, used to have a really big company. He also started his own company, and he went IPO.
So third generation of
entrepreneurs
here.
Not in the same company, but and that company was, I think, the second level Tokyo Stock Exchange public company. And then that company was bought by someone. How do you say that? My grandfather didn't want that to happen, but someone bought a lot of shares.
So it was a hostile takeover?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so our family, my grandfather lost his company So my father saw that happened in the past. So he doesn't want any, investors' money into my father's company. So we had intensive discussions in 2010, and then we decided to sort of separate. I started my own startup company.
But you guys started the development of the Laundroid 5 years before that.
Right.
So you were funding this out of operations for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. But I only spend money for this new business, like Laundroid and Nastin, just from my new business, which is a healthcare B2B business. So I kind of separated, new businesses and, existing businesses. And I try to do both. So in 2010, we finally kind of agreed to separate. And then let my sister run my father's company. And she's also a good business woman. And she was running subsidiary in the United States. And she was very successful. So we thought she can run the whole company. And I established Seven Dreamers in February 2011, actually in Silicon Valley first.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. And then Seven Dreamers bought all the base technologies of Nastin and Laundroid from my father's company. Also, Seven Dreamers acquired my father's company's subsidiary called Super Resin, which is the carbon fiber composite manufacturer in Tokyo. And that company is the one that I acquired when I was a CEO of my father's company. So what happens was basically whatever I created or whatever...
You kind of rolled it into
Right, and separated it.
So selling at that point, just developing the Laundroid, selling the anti-snoring device and the carbon fiber golf club shafts.
Right.
It's an interesting collection of technologies.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's so weird to have three different business areas.
Yeah, why? What led you to those three?
Yeah, to me it's really normal, but it's really weird from everybody else. And so the reason is, like R&D oriented manufacturing company, there are two ways of developing new products. One is think about from the technology seeds. The other way is the needs, right? In my opinion, all the themes has to come from needs, not the seeds. Because innovation is what we want to do. This means that picking the theme is the most important thing for innovations. This is maybe the most important. Many people make mistakes there. But in my opinion, picking the theme for innovation has to be from the demands or needs. And then we have to really find the theme which is not available in the world, right?
Okay.
But something people want to have.
So you're looking for very much blue ocean type niches where there's not competition, where you're inventing something genuinely new.
Yeah. We have three criteria to pick the theme, which we really, really value this. One is the theme has to be not available anywhere in the world, something definitely new. And the second is something to really make people's life better. And the third is something that has a very high technological hurdles. Okay, these three are the very important criteria when we pick themes. And I've been thinking about these for the last 13 years, but I only found 5 good themes. We come up with many new ideas. Oh, maybe this is a good theme. But most of the time, even if that product is not available in Japan, but maybe available in Europe or US already, or even if the idea or product is not available anywhere in the world, but if we do patent search and article search, someone is already doing it. Yeah. So this is the most of the time it's the case.
So what happened to the other 2 themes? You said you had 5 good themes?
Oh, yeah. We have 2 themes, ongoing,
Secret development.
Secret.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, in 13 years, I only found 5, right? So it's so rare. So many people want to do something new. For example, if we only focus in, for example, electronics market, then maybe chance of finding themes is very low.
Well, this is something I think that most young startup founders don't understand how incredibly difficult and unlikely it is to come up with an idea that many people have not had before.
Right.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, as you said.
But getting back to the Laundroid, you've been getting a lot of press attention recently, and you're going to be taking pre-orders soon now.
Soon, yes. We are going to open a showroom called Laundroid Cafe in Omotesando, Tokyo, next month, like March 16th. Okay. And then we are going to take pre-order end of May.
And when do you expect to start shipping?
End of the year, yes.
Now, you got, fairly early on, you got some investment from Daiwa House and Panasonic.
Right.
What do they see in Laundroid? Are they involved with development at all, or is it strictly production and marketing?
Laundroid will be sold under Seven Dreamers brand. But what they can do is Panasonic is supporting us for the production preparation, because we are good at developing new products, new technologies, but we don't have much experience mass producing, home appliances.
Right.
For example, like life testing, a lot of like electronics testing.
So is Panasonic simply producing it for you, or can we expect to see Laundroid integrated with Panasonic's washer and dryers at some point in the future?
Yeah, actually both.
Okay.
Yes. So the folding part, we are the one who has developed technologies, and we are the one who owns all the global patents. And but manufacturing, and also we don't have washer and dryer IP at all. So it's going to be a combination, combined work.
All right.
Right. And Daiwa House is supporting a lot of like marketing research, and also they want us to expand Laundroid business into nursing homes and hospitals. They're really, really into that kind of business segments.
That is interesting, because it does seem that nursing homes, hospitals, hotels would be the natural first adopters for a technology like Laundroid.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, but as I mentioned before, that I'm only interested in B2C market.
All right.
So I never thought of it, but after we discussed, after discussion with Daiwa House, and I thought, okay, that's a good idea, so we do it. But also my main aim to have a partnership with Daiwa House is I want to create a Laundroid home built-in, which is we install Laundroid into homes. Once you put your dirty clothings into some kind of like whole Laundroid, then it washes, dries, and folds, and it's separated by family members, and then automatically brings into each family member's closet.
Okay.
So
that's some deep integration into the home.
Right. So
that's nice. Right.
Yeah.
It would you'd wake up in the morning, the clothes would be folded and put away.
Right. What we want to do is, for example, if you have schedule in Google Calendar, we're going to go picnic tomorrow. Then in the next morning, already, Google knows weather, temperature, everything, right? and then Laundroid knows what you like in spring, for example. So, okay, how about this and this and this? And then, you see everything there, and just you wear it.
It's getting close to some real Jetsons technology here.
But in order to do this, we have to have a partnership with a home builder.
Right.
And then Daiwa House was a perfect fit for us.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned before that Laundroid requires a Wi-Fi connection. So
Yes.
all of the AI and the analysis is being done offsite in the cloud somewhere.
Actually, both. Because it's really requires intensive calculations. So Laundroid itself has AI software in there. And also the Laundroid core, it's our core server, central server, also has AI calculation functions. And so it communicate each other, and then sending data each other, and then fold by one. So
it's a collaborative effort.
Work, yeah.
And I guess it means it's very easy to push new AI updates to existing Laundroids as well.
Right. So AI function software in Laundroid core, and also Laundroid itself, always updated.
Excellent. So even the people who buy the first model will get the sock folding update when it comes out.
Right. So the first adapter don't lose,
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you planning on doing anything else with that data? Is there value in data on how frequently or what type of clothes are being washed and worn?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So as I mentioned that the Landroid remembers who wears what, how often, right? Of course, this is always, we have to really have a perfect control of the privacies. We don't sell private, information, but we can connect business to business using that big data. For example, apparel makers like Uniqlo, they know what kind of clothes they sell at each store, but they don't know if that clothes, how long it was used, how often it was.
Well, that's true.
worn.
Yeah, everyone knows what's being sold, but nobody knows what's actually being worn.
Right. So we are probably, it's going to be the only one who knows all that. So I'm sure there's a certain value to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You recently raised about $60 million from SBI.
Mm-hmm. And other,
Led by SBI.
Right.
Yeah. Was that round mainly targeting global expansion?
Yeah, let me start from the Series A fundraising, which I started January 2014. It took me more than 1 year to complete the Series A. It was really difficult. But we raised about $15 million. And that's from a couple venture capitals and a few, CVC, I should say. CVC, corporate VCs.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. That $15 million is mainly for domestic marketing of nascent medical device and also development for Android technology. And then after that, I started Series B fundraising, which we completed in last year, October 2016. So as you mentioned, SBI and Panasonic and Daiwa House. So then we raised about $60 million. So that was mainly for Android development and kind of getting ready for productions. And then right now we are under process of Series C fundraising, which is not that as much as Series B, but this is for the global, expansion of nascent and Landroid and Carbon Golf Shaft, actually 3 businesses.
Okay. Looking at the global market for Landroid, there seems to be a lot of kind of press release competition. You mentioned Foldmate. There's a whole bunch of Kickstarter projects, but nobody seems to be shipping anything yet.
Right.
Do you think there will be competition coming online soon, or do you think that the other companies are going to remain press release competition?
It will be just press release competition for probably a few years. But eventually, I'm sure the competitions will come, just like any other products. We have a really, really big advantages in technology development. It took us 12 years to achieve this. So I'm sure even if other competitors have money and human resources, it's going to take a few years to catch up for sure. We want to always have the name of we invented this. And also we want to have the largest share. So my role model company is Johnson & Johnson. So they launched one-day AccuView, one-day contact lenses in 1991. So since then, it's been 20-some years, but still they have 50% share in the whole world. And their product is probably the most expensive one compared to other companies, many other one-day contact lenses.
If you're so much ahead of the possible competition, what is the motivation to go global so quickly? Are there specific opportunities you're chasing, or is it a part of a broader strategy?
One of the reasons is I really hate Japanese company to be always domestic.
Yeah.
I think we can expand globally. Like Japanese companies can do it, and I want to show, even small like startup company like Seven Dreamers can globally expand. And I know I lived in the US for several years, so I know even like great company like Google and Apple, when they launch new product, immediately they expand globally.
Right.
Immediately,
right.
very
Often the
fast.
same days.
Yeah. But the Japanese company or Japanese invention stays here all the time, forever, which I really hate. So that's one of the reasons that we want to expand globally so quickly. And the second reason is I have the goal in 2030. The revenue is $3.5 billion, and then the profit margin is 20%. That's the goal that I set in year 2000.
And that can only happen globally.
Right. Japanese market, way too small.
That's a lot of laundry to fold.
Exactly. A lot of snoring patience we need. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about Japan as a whole for a minute.
Okay.
Because what you were just saying about the importance of going global, right now startups are getting a tremendous amount of attention in Japan.
Yeah, true.
But in terms of both the people employed, the technology being produced, the economic impact, it's very small. But looking at the technology that mid-sized Japanese companies have,
right,
like Seven Dreamers and like your father's company, and perhaps your grandfather's company as well.
Yeah.
What role do you think mid-sized companies in Japan have to play in bringing Japan forward and changing the economy and changing the way innovation happens here?
Okay, well, good question. First of all, why I chose R&D-based manufacturing company to start is I thought this type of business model or business segment has the highest probability or potential to grow big, really big. I probably could have a choice of establishing internet-based company, but I knew we are not going to be as big as Apple or Sony. So I think R&D-based manufacturing company has the highest potential, really, really grow kind of globally. But at the same time, money and time are the really, really the big risk for this kind of business model.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not like a SaaS marketplace that two college students can put up over the weekend. You spent 12 years developing this.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the future of AI and robotics in Japan? Two fields are at the core of Laundroid here.
Right.
Japan, actually until very recently, had always been on the leading edge of robotics. And I think maybe over the last 10 years, the market's really shifted from one that's been hardware-focused to software-focused.
Right.
Do you see Japan catching up?
To be honest with you, not easy.
Really?
Not easy. I think we'll be okay, definitely. We are not going to completely lose. But when it was industrial robots, we were pretty good just because it was a lot of mechanics and electronics, which we are really, really good at. But nowadays, robots has to be always together with the software, like artificial intelligence. That kind of algorithm software, I don't think Japan is so good. And then speed of developing technologies are relatively slow. So it's not going to be easy to be competitive, I think.
Okay.
Even many of our AI engineers are foreigners
Really?
at Seven Dreamers. Mechanics, electronics, robotics, these fields we have really talented Japanese engineers. But when it comes to, we call corse software, which is the AI part, 1/3 of the team members are foreigners, and they are excellent. They are,
Okay. Well, listen, before we wrap up, I want to ask you what I call my magic wand question.
Okay.
And that is, if I gave you a magic wand and I told you that you could change one thing about Japan, anything at all, the education system, the way people think about risk, the legal system, anything at all to make it better for startups here in Japan, what would you change?
Can I answer two?
Sure. It's your wand.
Something we want to do and something I want someone else to do. Right. There are two answers. One is something we want to do is definitely we want to show Japan can do it. We can make innovations, we can expand globally quickly. And once we do it, I'm sure there are many young followers will follow. And the second thing, one thing that I want someone else to do is really I want someone to change education system completely, disrupting Japan. Please, this is really, really bad.
What would you change about it?
Teachers. Well, I shouldn't say that, sorry. But for example, about, global thing, globalism. Teachers have no experiences abroad, Like how people can teach about global experiences without, having global experiences, It's impossible.
This is something I think is true at all levels of the Japanese education system. I mean, at universities, you have business professors who've never been in business. Mm-hmm. They've always been in academics, or computer science professors who've never had to write a program in a commercial environment. Is that attitude from kindergarten all the way up to university?
Oh yeah, all the way up. And then, I know what's really bad about this is seniority of the academic field. For example, in business field, it's getting better. Of course, the age really matters, but not as much as educational field. In educational field, it's like a sumo wrestler. Once you become yokozuna, you never need to leave, Once you become an executive professor at the university, you never need to leave. Even if you're 75, 80 years old, you still are the best. How he could change the educational system, right? Even if a talented, new, young, globally experienced professor come to the university, how they can change the whole system,
Yeah, it makes it almost impossible to get in new ideas.
Right. What's great about the U.S. university was my professor was old, 70 years old, but he was really kind of senior professor. But he had his power and position just because he was raising fund from the government grant. But when I was there for 5 years, he lost so many grants, and his power went down immediately. And we had a great office, but he shrunk his lab so much. He was transferred to another really poor, cheap building in just his own office without no lab, without any lab, no students.
Really based on results.
Yeah. Yes. And then new, very young professors took over all the great lab. And I felt so bad, but I thought, this is the strength, this is the power of U.S. education.
And that could never happen in Japan.
Never happen in Japan. I've never seen such in any university so far. It might change in the near future. I hope so, but so far it never happens.
So we don't see that attitude changing in the education system. Do you see it changing in business?
Oh yeah, business. It's changing a lot.
So you think compared to 10, 20 years ago, Japanese businessmen are being much more flexible in their thinkings?
Oh yeah. Big time. It's changed large mega companies and also changed this startup environment. Big change. Yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, hopefully some of that change will filter back to the university.
Yes, I really hope so. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, Shin, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Startups are the lifeblood of an economy, and there are few who understand it better than Deloitte Tomatsu Venture Support. Deloitte TVS is the #1 startup supporter in Japan, and they spur innovation here by connecting startups with larger companies and government entities. They work free of charge with these startups to help them with acceleration, PR, fundraising, and also finding the right corporate partners here. So far, Deloitte TVS has supported more than 3,000 startups in Japan. And now they have a global open innovation platform connecting startups and enterprises worldwide. It's a great way to connect with some of Japan's biggest players. So be sure to check out what Deloitte TVS has to offer. And we're back. You know, when I look at the Landroid, I really can't help but think of Stanley Kubrick's 2001. Landroid is shaped like the big black monolith from the opening scene, and its most visible feature is a big round light a little bit below eye level, which reminds me of HAL. Now, I doubt that 2001 was the inspiration for the design, and considering the fact that HAL turned into a murdering sociopath, it's pretty unlikely that Shin and his team at Seven Dreamers would appreciate the comparison. But the more I think about AI, the more I become convinced that the future is going to look a lot more like the Landroid and a lot less like HAL. In fact, despite the progress being made in AI and the concerns over superintelligent, conscious AI being raised by such indisputable geniuses like Ray Kurzweil, Stephen Hawking, and Elon Musk, I think the geniuses have it wrong, and that we are much, much farther away from AI with human-like intelligence than we imagine ourselves to be. Ray Kurzweil has been talking about this the longest. He coined the usage of the term singularity to mean the point at which computer processing power would equal that of the human brain, and computers would begin to equal and then quickly exceed human intelligence. I've been a fan of Ray Kurzweil for decades. He quoted me in one of his books once, and it put me in a good mood for an entire year. But with the utmost respect to Ray, I think there's something fundamental that he's overlooking. The assumption that the brain is a computing engine is not really based on anything. It's simply a metaphor that makes sense because we live in the computing age. If you look back into the era from 1900 to the 1930s, both science fiction and futurists were predicting intelligent, sentient robots based on complex gears and physical mechanisms. And just like today, they pointed to machines doing more and more tasks that used to require human intelligence. The dominant metaphor at the time was one of steam and gears and power, so it was natural to view ourselves in that light, as a collection of moving parts that simply needed to be understood and replicated. That metaphor no longer works today, so it's easy to see how it was incorrect. But somehow, the idea that we will achieve human-like intelligence, or even consciousness, once we just get enough operations per second, enough computing power, that metaphor and illusion still persists. Think of it this way. DNA is at the center of all life on Earth. DNA is the storage mechanism for life. It controls how we develop, and really most of the traits that define us. It's an incredibly complex molecule. But DNA is really a physical representation of an extremely large base 4 number, or alternatively, a very long sequence of base 4 digits. Well, today we can read that genetic code. We can perfectly store that information on a USB drive. But that doesn't mean that we can create and control life. Because even though computer storage is a good metaphor for what DNA does, it's only a metaphor. That's not what DNA really is. In the same way, a floating point operation is a very good metaphor for what a neuron does. But that's not what a neuron is. Why am I confident making this claim? Well, because our most powerful AI computing systems have not produced anything approaching consciousness or general intelligence. Of course, AI researchers and advocates will point out, correctly, that the singularity is still supposedly 25 years away, so we can't expect to see much progress with today's computers. But the thing is, we should expect that. In fact, we can simulate exactly how AI will behave when we have 100 times or 1,000 times the processing power we have now. We just have to wait a bit. We can time shift the results. We don't have to observe AI in real time. So, for example, a computer AI running for 42 days on today's hardware will produce exactly the same amount of consciousness that a computer with 1,000 times that processing power will produce in an hour, which so far is none at all. Someday we might well create a genuine, general artificial intelligence, but we've been fooling ourselves when we think that consciousness or general intelligence is a matter of neuron counts and operations per second. I think we're going to discover that intelligence is something far more elusive and far more complex. Computational and human thought processes are different and complementary. Computers can drive a car better than many people, and computers can defeat the world's most talented humans at chess, Go, and Jeopardy. But they still can't match a pair of socks. We're going to see AI improve and outperform humans at more and more tasks, and that's a great thing. I'm perfectly fine putting Hal in charge of folding my socks, but it's going to be a very long time before we should put him in control of the airlocks. If you've got thoughts about the Laundroid or that little AI monologue I just went off on, Shin and I would love to hear from you. Seriously, this is interesting stuff, so come by disruptingjapan.com/show081 and let's talk about it. And when you come to the site, you'll see all the links and notes that Shin and I talked about and much, much more in the resources section of the post. But most of all, thanks for listening. And thank you for letting people interested in Japanese startups know about the show. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening to Disrupting Japan. Disrupting Japan is a proud member of the Japan Podcast Network. It's a community of high-quality podcasts in English about Japan, and there's some pretty good stuff there, so check it out at japanpodcastnetwork.com.